Welcome to the Detailing Show, episode 8. Coming up in this episode of the Detailing Show, I'm going to be taking a look at my brush selection. It's what I'll use typically in a general, clean, maintenance, wash, whatever term you want to put on it. We're going to be looking specifically at Autoglanz's range of brushes. That's a hog's hair brush, that's an interior brush, that's a chemical resistant brush. They are awesome. I'll explain to you for why if you stick around. That's segment number 1 of this episode. Coming up after that, we're going to be taking a look at Britemax's all-in-one. You may remember Britemax got across to me a few different bits and bobs in their range, and I'm working through them, and I've been relentlessly and continuously impressed with everything they do. But does this one cut the mustard? You will see in segment number 2. After that, to round up the whole show, we're going to be taking a look at Obsession Wax's Evolution Rosé Edition. It's a new version of Evolution version 2. It's aimed at darker coloured cars, so specifically for this one, managed to roll in an MX-5 in a dark navy blue, specifically for this segment. So why don't you stick around, check all these sections out. Questions, as always, ask them below. We're going to start with the brushes. Let's go.
Hey guys, so a different type of review. Stepping away from the product so much on this one. This one's more going to look at some of the tools that I use, specifically brushes. Autoglanz recently, they released a full set of detailing brushes, so they sent me the set along to have a try out and have a go on the channel. But I thought I'd chuck in a few other bits and bobs and give you guys a bit of a look over what you can use and my thoughts on those products as well. This is the card that's going to be featured throughout the episode. So this was, it belongs to a friend of mine. So it was in need of a clean up, and it was a perfect test bed for what we needed, because it was not kept the way that I would normally keep, say my wheel arches. They don't make for the best filming experience because they typically look not too bad. These are all the things we're going to look at in this. So the first 3 brushes they're from Autoglanz. That tiny little bag there, they're from Detailing Swabs, and then there's some wheel woolies and a Vikan long-handled wheel brush. So setting up for the wheels, usual sort of procedure, rinse everything down. Both the products there that you saw on the bucket have been reviewed in former episodes, so the Shiny Garage stuff in last week's, and the Britemax, I think maybe 3 episodes back now. So if you want to look into my reviews, my thoughts on those, they are around, they're available. In actual fact, I'll put the link on the screen there, so make it all easy for you guys. So standard setup, rinse everything down, get your chemicals applied, give it time to sit. So first things first, I thought I'd try Autoglanz's chemical resistant wheel brush with the Britemax grime out on the tyres. So my first thoughts with this as I got into to using it, it's a very big handle, so compared to what you're used to holding, it really does sort of take you by surprise, but they're incredibly comfortable in the hand. I found that when I tried all 4 of these brushes, I found that was sort of the running theme. So very sort of ergonomically designed. It's just nice to hold something that's not sort of that spindly thin brush. Although you get used to that, this was very, very comfortable in the hand, and made a nicer experience of everything really. In terms of the chemical resistant one, so you get more of a nylon-y type of bristle to it, where the others are a natural hog's hair brushes. I did try, you'll see in a second, tried one of the hog's hair brushes on the face of this wheel. Long term, it's not going to agree with it putting harsh chemicals into the natural fibres. So really what you should do is not so much as do what I do in this case, but try and stick with a chemical resistant one to your wheels and the harsher jobs, things like that. I thought it did a great job. It was a little bit soft on the bristle, so I'm kind of used to using as a wheel brush at the minute something with a much firmer bristle, and I find really there's a place in the market for both. With that firmer bristle, typically be quite aggressive in your scrubbing of the tyre wall, so really if you were trying to recover something, So on this particular car, those, you know, I've never cleaned any part of this, so, you know, maybe a stiffer brush would have been more applicable with it. However, for a car that is kept, and, you know, we're looking at detailing here, so, you know, this isn't so much here's the first time a car's going to have rolled around for you. For a lot of you guys like me, hobbyists, you're going to be looking after your own car. I think the brush is a great fit for that purpose. So where you are staying on top of, you know, these sort of jobs, no need to have such a thick bristle. But if it were to be a job where I did need a bit of extra, you know, cut to what the brush could do, then I would have favoured something with a little bit of a stiffer bristle in that case. So once I tried that, moved on next to the hogshair brush. Very, very long, what's the word I'm after here? Bristle length. I'm not really a brush expert in terms of terminology. Very, very long bristles. Let's go with that. Creates a very soft experience. So in use, very, very sort of delicate in what it was doing. Again, you know, it could have been a little bit firmer in certain jobs, in certain areas. But really, they're aimed at more of a finesse, you know, more of a detailer's type of approach, which, you know, is preservation of paint and, you know, not really inflicting swirls or any additional wash marring that potentially you could. So again, although I could say ideally could have a little bit more cut, again, I'm basing that on the experience used on the day. So for you guys at home, under your normal usage, you know, these things are absolutely brilliant at what they do. They kind of froth up, they lather up almost like a shaving brush, what you are using to clean. So you get a much longer dwell, you're really able to work it into the areas you want it to. And, you know, all around, I thought it was a very, very nice brush to use. So again, so far 2 for 2 on the Autoglanz brushes. I'll come back to those in a second. This is a Vikan long-handled brush. These cost like £5 or so, maybe £6. They cost absolutely pennies, but get one, invest in one. They are very, very worth having, or very, very invaluable to a detailer's toolkit. So if you don't own one already, very short, simple, sweet, buy one, you will not regret it. The wheel wool, as you saw me using to clean the barrel of the wheel, I'm going to revisit those for a full review specifically just for that set alone. So I really, really do rate my wheel wool, and I've had them for a long time now. So once the wheel's all done, and this is the last bit of sort of rinsing now, and as you can see, the arch was actually blue, which, you know, who knew? There's so much dirt in there. But yeah, once I was past all that, back to the Autoglanz brushes, and you know, again, another job that you're going to use these for, and this is for cleaning the tight work. So that's things like seals and door jambs, things like that. And again, I thought they were really, really well suited to that, and did a fantastic job. In terms of costing with the Autoglanz brushes, you're looking for all of them, they're around the £10 mark. So I say around, like for example, they do the hogshair brushes, they do a large and they do a medium, and it's like large is £11, medium 10. So they're all of a muchness. Again, it's a different handle shape on this one compared to the chemical resistant wheel brush, but again, very, very comfortable in the hand. I found as well with the longer bristles, they had the added benefit of certain areas that you want to get into that can be a little bit difficult on the reach. That remedied a lot of those situations. So with the door shuts, when I was cleaning them on this MX-5, there was some really tricky areas just around the back end of the door hinge, which it really dealt with incredibly well, just with that extra bit of reach in those bristles. And again, small bits like this, a little bit of a tight jammed up area underneath the wing mirror, and on a shorter bristle, and potentially run the risk of just sort of bouncing the ferrule off the paint if you're not careful. Obviously, you know, with these, there's no metal elements to it, so wouldn't be the end of the world, but it's obviously not the sort of thing we want to be doing, and sort of bashing these things against your paintwork. It's obviously counterintuitive to what we should be doing. So loved the brush from that perspective as well. I think, like I say, all round, I did enjoy them. I did love using them. Can I see the value in spending so much on a brush? And I say that respectfully to Autoglanz. They're not the only people to produce a brush at this sort of price point, but there are cheaper out there, and I own cheaper. you can feel the quality in this. So, you know, like I was just saying with the wheel woolies, I'm going to invest some time in reviewing the wheel woolies, but I invested money in those as well. And what has that done for me? I'll tell you what it's done. It's given me a tool that I've been able to use consistently, reliably, for a long time. So I've had those woolies for some years, and I look after them and they look after me. And I think you'd find exactly the same with these brushes. So is it worth spending your money on them? Absolutely. They're going to do a great job. So first and foremost, you want to know that they're going to do that, and they will. But they will last. So they're not going to do a good job for a year or so. They're not going to, you know, sort of wilt away or potentially snap, or, you know, you see these cheaper ones like molded yellow handle, red ferrule, that sort of thing. You know that they're not going to last the same sort of lifespan. So for me, my advice with these types of brushes is view it as an investment piece, you know, like buying a good bucket or anything like that. It's a good tool that you're going to have for a lot of years. It's not a disposable item. And hell, when we're spending £10 on a bottle of new chemical, whatever we want to try, £10 on a brush you're going to have for years on end, it's worth it. So look into buying them. The links are below for them. This is just the interior brush. So again, along the lines of, you know, the rest, very comfortable handle, long bristles, so on. It was just another easy tick win for me and for these brushes. I'm very glad I got to use them. But yeah, that's my advice. In summary, with these brushes, worth buying, yes. Worth getting in your kit bag, yes. Will it sting the pocket a little bit compared to what you know you can get cheaper? Yes, it will. But will you remember that expense next year when you're still using these? No. So look past the expense for now. Invest in them and be happy with them. They'll bring you a lot of years of good usage. Of that much, I am sure. After the Autoglanz brushes, the other bits I wanted to have a look at were these little jobbies. Apparently jobbies means a different thing in Scotland, I was told the other day, so probably got to stop saying that. These are detailing swabs. So imagine a cotton bud, but on steroids, really nicely refined down. There's two sizes, and you'll see the second size in a bit in this video. They are £4.50 including postage for 10 of each. Now the way they're constructed is very rigid plastic, so it's not going to bend. You know, you look at cotton buds and you know, it's a thin plastic straw, yes, but it's typically, if you apply a little bit of pressure, then they will bend and they'll start to give. No such danger with these. And then the tips on them, so one's got a little bit of a velour type of tip. That's the large one, not the one you're seeing right now. And that's got a little bit of a softer type of touch to it. This one is like a pressed felt. So a very fine point. You're able to get into little nooks and crannies. I really did give this one some abuse, and it just started to sort of flatten out towards the end of me giving it a little bit of hammer on these. I thought all in all, for when these things popped up, and they popped up on Instagram originally, and they're still on there. They popped up and I thought, worth the punt, £4.50. You know, it's one of those Dr. Pepper moments. What's the worst that can happen? And I'm really glad that I did. And, you know, recently I saw a thread pop up on one of the detailing chat groups, I think maybe Detailing Central, and someone said when they're after something like this, I suggested them. And the question was asked, what can this do that a cotton bud can't? And honestly, it's such a different tool, and I think until you own them you wouldn't really sort of understand that. You know, a cotton bud's quite a thick end, it has no real precision to it, and they're not really built for what we want to do with them, whereas these are built well. You know, you can see there's a little bit of effort gone into these, and in terms of the mindset of how they're going to be used. I think they're absolutely bob on, and they cost a pittance. You know, £4.50 for 20 of these, worth buying, worth scooping some up. So the links are below for these as well, just the same. After I dealt with the badge, the next thing after this was just a little recess underneath the light, and that gave me the opportunity to bust out the alternative size. So like I said, two sizes you get in that bundle, in that £4.50. So 10 of this smaller one that you've been seeing me use. You can see what I mean by like flattening of the tip. So it's kind of almost splayed out like a tiny detailing brush at this point. So it's still actually usable. It still has a purpose to it. I've been told that you can, with some care, rinse these out and clean them out at the end, and sort of have multiple uses from them as well. So it's not a one-use disposal type of thing. You can clean them, refresh them if you think it's worth doing. So this is the larger size you're about to see now. I had a thought, and I did message them about this. Can this be used to apply coatings? So, sometimes with certain coatings getting into tiny little spots, I think this one actually would be a fantastic tool for that. The fact the tip is a little bit different, a little bit more of a cloth type of tip, I think they would hold some coating, and I think they would work for that purpose. So all in all, again, another easy one for me to recommend. So brushes, if you're after new brushes, Autoglanz ones, yes, they're worth the investment. Detailing Swabs, not so much an investment purchase because they're only £4.50. So they're worth the throwaway, it's only £4.50 recommendation. Either way, I think you'll find a use from either or. So look them up. Links are all below. Check them out. If you use them, get some pictures, get anything online, tag me in them. Always keen to see you guys getting some use from some of the things I can recommend. Back to me in the kitchen.
So, as always, the links are below for everything that you've seen there. The Autoglanz brushes, the Vikins, the wheel brushes. So, moving on from that, the next section is Britemax's all-in-one. Why don't you guys check this out? Join me at the other end of this one. Enjoy this. Questions, comments, below is the place to ask them. Enjoy.
Hey guys, so first for the channel, we've not had an all-in-one review, so we thought we'd start off with the Britemax one. If you don't know what an all-in-one is, you may have even used one, you're not even aware of it. An all-in-one is one of those products where it's a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none type of deal, but very, very quick, very convenient. They contain typically 3 features. So number one is that it has a little bit of cut, so it can remove very light oxidization, some very light sort of marring and scratching. Nothing major, it's not a substitute for a compound, but it does have a bit of cut. The second is that it has some filling properties. So with swirls and things on your paintwork, removing them would be your typical polishing process. With an all-in-one, what it will do is actually leave something behind which fills, which masks some of them that are there. And it will do that to a certain extent, but it's fair to know what they are capable of doing. So they're not designed to be a replacement for a full correction. The third thing that they do is they leave some protection behind, so they leave a wax element. So this one being Britemax's one, it's obviously, does all of those things. So you're going to see that this here, for example, you see the before and after, the swirls significantly worse before, afterwards. Still some there, yes, but it's cleaned a lot of them up. It's a 473ml bottle. It retails at about £17. I think it's like £16.95 currently on Britemax's website. Use very, very little of it. You can use it by machine or you can use it by hand. So on the particular day, went with a hand application. It was raining a lot, so getting the machine out wasn't really safe, in all fairness. But I would like to see what this thing will do under a machine application. It applies like, typical sealants and, all-in-ones. They have this very easy use. So, you kind of buff them around, let them cure, buff off, and there's no real work. There's no effort to it. Although, that being said, you do tend to work the product more so than you would a sealant. So you can, by the time you finish the whole car, kind of have a little bit of a pain in the arm, let's say. They do take a little bit of work just in their nature. So the Britemax one, it had a little bit of a scent to it. It wasn't unpleasant, actually. I couldn't quite pin my sort of nose on it, so to speak, but it was a little bit almost like a cucumbery type of scent. And I'm not sure if it was just, the natural smell of the chemical, but I actually found it quite pleasant as I was working around the car. Like I say, in terms of use, won't really review the ease of use because they typically are very straightforward. And, this one, really non-dusty. It didn't sort of cause me any issues with some. You do get quite a lot of dust at the cheaper end of all-in-ones. In terms of protection, I didn't really judge that. And the reason for that is coming at the end of this episode, you're going to see the wax segment. So this was always designed to be a base layer to tidy the paint up and get it ready for that waxing stage. So to break all that down then, so In terms of the filling capability, like I've already showed you on the wing there, I thought it filled very, very well. And this is, single hand application, really, really low effort. But I think it did a great job of really prepping the paint and getting it to a level where I was happy to wax on top of it. Number two thing just to cover is the cut. And like I say, with all-in-ones, they have a very light cut. They're not a compound. The design just have a little bit of a go. But the handle was the worst area. You can see the oxidization on this. So work the area a wee bit. And you've seen a second actually, did quite a very good job at it. It took a lot of the oxidization off. Not 100%, but again, for what I'd expect from the product, I think it did an absolutely stellar job. So all good on that point as well. And then in terms of the overall feel, once it was all done and finished and so on, the paintwork actually felt quite slick. It felt very, very well prepped for the waxing stage. I'd already done all the decontamination, so iron, tar, clay, that was all done prior to hitting at this stage. But also the one thing that you'll find with an all-in-one as a good prep product is the marring that you tend to induce from a clay bar session. It dealt with that really, really well. So, it tidied that up. So if you're in a position where we don't all have access to a machine polisher, but you still will want to go through those sort of steps and stages, the decontamination, the clay session, and you really always need to follow clay up with a polishing set afterwards. And an all-in-one is perfect for that. If that's you, if you don't have that access to that machine polisher, I'd recommend an all-in-one to you. It's really aimed at that sort of by hand type of market, and it does a fantastic job. Here you'll see on the boot lid again a before and after. So up to that point there, you can see the difference. So used it on half of it. You can see sort of where there's a mass of swirls and all of the hazing and whatnot. Come to the closer side of the boot lid. Cleaned a lot of it up, but equally I took that shot so you can see it's not going to remove absolutely everything perfectly. So just to temper a little bit what it is capable of doing. All in all, can I recommend the Britemax stuff? Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a massive amount of experience with all-in-ones. Typically not the sort of product I will use, but that's because with my car, I've got it polished and I've got it sort of where I want it to be. However, would it be something I could recommend to you guys if you're looking for an all-in-one? Yeah, a very, very, easy recommendation for me because it does all of the three things that you'd want it to do. Durability-wise, they're never really rated for being the most durable product, but that's not knocking the Britemax. That's a general sweeping statement. So yeah, all in all, that's about all I can tell you. I liked it. I enjoyed using it. It's easy to recommend. It did a great job. Price-wise, £17 for what is just under 500ml may seem a little bit rich, but you use very, very little of it, and it's a fantastic tool to have in your kit bag just for these very jobs, just where you need to get a bit of prep work done. That's it for this review. Back to me in the kitchen.
And finally, the wax segment. You guys know I love waxing. This one's a bit of a doozy. It's Obsession Wax's Rosé edition of Evolution. So Evolution is a wax I've used, I do enjoy. I'm yet to get it on the channel, even though I've got a pot of it, so I will in the future soon, I hope. But this is their version which has been tweaked and tailored to darker colours. So why don't you guys check this out? As always, links are below, comments, questions, ask them. But enjoy this, and I'll see you on the other side.
On to the wax section. You guys know I love this more than anything else, as much as I love all the steps that come before it. This for me is the real pleasure of detailing right at the end. So this one's going to take a look. Obsession Wax's Evolution Rosé Edition. Could be Rose Edition. I've never really checked that. I'm going to go with Rosé Edition. Evolution is a wax that Obsession Wax have had out for some time. And Evolution as a wax, it contains no carnauba. So it's a Montan based wax. It's a cracking wax. It's a very crisp finish. The Rosé Edition is this. They've basically added some other ingredients to it. So they've tweaked the blend. They've added carnauba into it. The reason why is that it gives, typically with carnauba, a warmer glow. A darker, warmer glow. And that's really well suited to darker colours. Now, don't get me wrong. If you buy this and you whack it all over a white or a silver car, it's still going to give a cracking result, as is the nature of a wax that costs 75 quid. You would still expect that. But the way it's been formulated and the way it's sort of been aimed is that the finish is going to be more favoured on a darker colour. So that's all I mean by that. Don't be put off by it if you want to try it. You've got a lighter colour car. It will still do a great job. So right off the bat, the first thing, and small things like this I really do love. I really loved the colour of the glass jar on this one. So in terms of the overall presentation, always a glass jar with Obsession wax, 200 mils of wax for your money, and it was in a really nice pinky purple jar, very transparent, and for me I really loved it. It was one thing that I kind of walked away from the day, and I thought I really liked that detail. It was a nice one, and it was eye-catching, which is a difficult thing to do with all these waxes that are on the market. Very firm and very, very oily. You saw there just as I was kind of toying with the wax, it oiled up very, very well, and it was very oily on application, as you're kind of working around the paint, which led to a very, very easy application. I did feel in its nature, the term I'm going to use this is a wax that won't be rushed, and that's not a bad thing. If you're using a wax at this sort of cost, it's, by its very nature, part of the cost is that you're buying an experience. So, if you want quick, you can buy sealants you stick in a snow foam lance, and spray them on and wash them off. This is one of those where when I apply it, it's not difficult. It didn't cause me any grief, but you can't like buzz around the car at an amazing speed. You just sort of savour the experience. And then the same on removing it as well. And sometimes, as I'm running out of time with filming, I do have to sort of knock it up a notch and almost try and push out those last few panels. And this isn't a wax that would allow you to do that. It's very much one where it's like, just enjoy the process for what it is. So for me, I like that detail, but I like to get it in there just so you guys know sort of my experiences with using it. You can apply it. It's a bit of a quirky one, this one, and it won't sound quite right when I say this. You can apply it, leave it, then buff it, which is 10 to 15 minutes recommended. But you can also apply it, leave it for 15 minutes, then apply another layer on top, leave that for 15 minutes, and then remove both. And I've never tried that process, and I really, really must try to and give that a go. So I didn't try it on the day, but I'd be intrigued to know if any of you guys have tried it and sort of your thoughts, your feedback on that, because I'm not up to speed with that. It's not something that I've done, so I'm curious as to how that works, and it's something that I do need to revisit because it applies on a couple of Obsession waxes that I'm aware of. So it's something I do need to have a crack on. Finish wise, it was suited to dark colour cars, so it's a warm depth. It has a nice gloss to it, which is the Montan sort of base that's in Evolution, but that addition of the Carnauba gives it a real richness, and one that, yes, I would agree, it's suited better to darker colours, red, orange, blues, blacks. I think it would give really the sort of finish that most people are searching for. If you do want to go for a crisper type of finish, then just drop back to the standard Evolution. They're about the same price anyway, and that will give you the finish that maybe you would like, if that's the type of finish that you want. Beading, as you can see, pretty good. Quite round, quite uniform beads. Not the tallest, but I'm splitting hairs just based on the fact that this is a £75 wax, but certainly nothing to be disappointed with here. All in all, I loved it. It was everything that I do enjoy about waxing. It was a pleasurable experience. I was able to sort of savour it, enjoy it as I went round. The smell was there, the scent. It had a nice fruity scent, raspberry possibly. I'm not 100% what it was. But all in all, it's a wax for waxing's sake. Let's put it that way. So if you're looking for one to add to your collection, or you want to tweak on what Evolution can offer, and you want something that is easy to use, then yeah, why not? Add it to your collection. Blame it on me, as I always say. For the whole Obsession wax range at this point, you tend to find they're all kind of bunching up a little bit in price. So for example, you've got Evolution at the same price if you want to change the finish. But another great option for just a 10 or more is Dynasty, which I also really, really rate. I really, really love. So if you are sort of splitting hairs over that range, just know that when you're at that sort of price point, you're not going to be buying a bad wax. You're going to be buying a fantastic wax. Links are below for this if you want to check it out. And as always, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the review. For one final time, back to me in the kitchen.
So that's it for this episode of the Detailing Show. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you're enjoying it at the new time, Sunday 7:30. We're going to try and stick to that as religiously as is possible. It won't always be possible, but as religiously as possible. Tune in for next week's episode. On next week's episode, we've got Jay's Wax, ceramic wax. We have got Wax Tubs Lumin, as well as a quick look at what they've got in development, let's call it. Their synthetic wax they've got in development. So we're going to take a look at that as well. As well as that, WoWo have a range of chemicals. You saw the microfiber refresher on the previous video. So I've got the other three, the wheel cleaner shampoo and their rinse aid coming up in the next episode after this one. So stick around, subscribe, comment, share, like, all of that lovely stuff that you guys know I'm very, very grateful for. And see you very, very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.